What's up, JBK?
David, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's up? I'm blessed, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Hey, I can't see you. I can hear you well, but I can't see you. If we could have the video on.
Can you see me now?
There it is, man. You look good in your office. I like it, man.
Thanks, man.
All the posters in the background.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of my images, some of my favorite images, man. I just put on the wall.
Well, and you've certainly been around a lot of different players, and we'll get into your career as a sports photographer. I was looking at my Instagram, man. A lot of the images, a lot of my favorite images throughout the past several years of me doing media were taken by you with me on the field, man, at Lucas Oil Stadium. So
Well, that's a good thing, man. That's a great thing. That's where I met. That's why I met the legend JBK, man.
well, hey, you always seem to highlight others and make them look good. So hopefully, this interview serves as making you look good, David. So tell me, man, you've been involved with photography for a long time. What first kind of got you interested in it?
Well, in the overall scheme of things, man, I started shooting in '05. So it's really not been that long, man. But I
Right.
just started out as a hobby because I was going to all of these games, man. And I said, well, let me get something kind of commemorate, some of the games.
Yeah.
And I started out with a uh, film camera, man. Just a friend let me use,
Right.
and I was shooting a game. It was Pike North Central. Back in the day, man, those were sellouts weeks
Heck
in
yeah.
advance. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had my gear there, and I got my credentials, and going in and shooting, man. And a great game too, man. I'm blasting. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have some great stuff. I'm gonna have some great images.
Right.
Took it to get it developed, man. It was trash. It was horrible
Oh.
because I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was just doing it to have fun. But after that, I got rid of that camera, man, and went to the digital age.
What I guess when folks are starting out, what would you recommend equipment wise?
Well, the first thing I would do is the same things my mentors told me, man, when I first started out.
Yeah.
Matt Krieger, a gentleman named Matt Krieger, you probably know him, and Sam Ritchie. They both worked at the Star at the same time. I didn't know it though. I just saw them at different places,
Right.
and they were gracious enough, man, to drop that knowledge on me, man. But the first thing both of them said um, before I even knew they knew each other was know your camera. And
Right.
so they gave me some suggestions. My first camera was a Canon 20D, and I
Okay.
and I got it. And but I first thing I did was got my manual. Nowadays, you don't even have a manual; you got to go online. But I had a manual, and I read it. I read it from cover to cover numerous times, man, to get that information. Because in photography, man, information is key. So you know what? Just like I didn't do the first time,
Right.
the second time I started doing it digital, it was uh it was a whole different night and day, man, night and day.
Well, and pricing changes year to year with new ones coming out, but uh,
Absolutely.
what does a typical camera that would get most shoots done cost? What would you say? Where does it range?
Um, I would say nowadays, man, with it's if you start that as a hobby, man, it's an expensive hobby
Right. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
to get the equipment you need to start. I have quite a few students that started off that are doing using 70s from Canon. I'm just speaking of Canon because that's what I know and that's what I use.
Right.
And it's a great camera. And 90Ds and things of that nature, which will probably run you because they come in kits with the lens and the body. I think it would be around maybe $1,000.
Yeah. Well, and I know with seeing you on the field, man, you would switch out some of the lenses to get a different kind of shot. Sometimes the lenses are several $100s, and that's just what you're looking through, right? I mean,
Well, you're being kind, man. Those lenses are thousands of dollars.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've covered Indianapolis is known for sports of all sorts. What would you say are some of your favorite venues to cover a game in?
Well, JBK, you know sports just as well as I do, man. And
Yeah.
in Indiana, all the other 49 states is just basketball, but in
Right.
Indiana, it's a religion. So some great venues, man. It's like it's now called Gamebridge, but Banker's Life, Lucas. that you get that I got an opportunity to shoot in, man, which a lot of people don't, because you know the routine. Credentials to get in those places are like gold, man. No, let me change that. Like platinum to get in.
Yeah.
You have to be with a publication. And I was blessed enough to be brought in with a gentleman named, he's one of my partners, Walt Thomas. He got me into the pro game through the Indianapolis Recorder. That's who I shoot for. When you see me on the sidelines for Pacers, Fever, Butler, NFL, that's through the Indianapolis Recorder. They got the credentials for us, and we're working that game. High school, man, it's like, oh, man, some of the games, it was so many. You know, when I was doing stuff for like, some stuff that comes to memory real quick was following Trey Lyles and IPS Tech. You know, because Tech had never won a state championship. They got close several times, but they had never won it. And shooting that, following them all the way around, and then the Odin Conley, Eric Gordon, Gary Harris, Courtney Lee, those guys, the Teague brothers, and shooting venues like IU. I had the great opportunity to shoot that game with IU. Watford shot the game-winning shot and beat them, man. And it went from I was down with my partner, Matt Krieger. We were sitting side by side. And I said, man, this game is going to overtime. He said, no. Something's going to happen. And so he said, grab your camera. And I grabbed both bodies. And when he shot that shot, it was eerily quiet, JBK. And it went from 0 to 60 in 1 second. And we jumped up and started running. And thank God we did, because I would have got trampled. And I should have kept it. I had a chair that I used to set on the floor. Right. And it was demolished. When I finally found it, it was demolished. Those kids trampled that cameraman, but we were out in the midst of that. And, oh, man, that's one of the great games. And when Warren Central won the semi-state up in, where am I drawing a blank? Seymour.
Right.
Seymour. And they were out scalping tickets hours before the game with Romeo Langford and Warren. And that was the same way. My partner, I was with my guy, Matt Krieger, man. He said, man, this is not going overtime. So we grabbed our cameras and the same thing happened. Yep. David Bell hit that shot, man, and it was incredible. Yep.
Well, oddly enough, Big Joey was at that Watford game when he hit the shot, and he didn't end up going on the floor, but had the pandemonium all around him. And
oh man.
And also, I had to watch, Romeo Langford put a dagger in Joey's heart as a sophomore when he eliminated Southport. So
in Richmond, right. I was there.
Yeah, man, and what a great venue too that Southport is, that field house. Saw many games down there when I was at UND too. You did mention that you work for the Indianapolis Recorder, but you're a independent contractor that can be hired by anybody.
Yes. People ask me all the time, my freelance photographer, you get the free off. You can call me Lance if you want to, but I have a couple of companies, man. One is Double S Media, doublesmedia.com, and we shoot one of our things that we do. We shoot we got a great opportunity through ISHA. Mr. Chris Kaufman gave us an opportunity. We shoot every state high school championship. So it's about JBK, it's probably about 56 of them over the course of the year. And we shoot all of those. And then I have contracts with other high schools like Washington, Westfield, Lawrence Township, Beech Grove, and the Factory that keeps me busy with my other company called the Next Level One.
Yeah. How busy, and maybe this relates to the Factory, I don't know if it's the same thing, but how busy to do like AAU tournaments keep you? Is that another deal that, because I know several things happen in Indy related to that.
Yeah, after our high school obligations are over, which are usually about 9 months, then we get into the summer stuff, and the Factory hosts a great deal of AAU tournaments, huge ones too, man. Where they might run a week, or they'll run back to back, and we'll have stuff at the Factory, but also it requires us to do rent other venues. because the tournament is so big, man. But it's massive, man. It's massive, and girls and boys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and see, I would leave the field, and you would be on the field, still trying to gather your photos for what you need to do. Um, Talk to me about like from the time that you arrived at Lucas Oil Stadium or Gamebridge Fieldhouse, or whatever, to the time that you get home. What does a typical game day, work day look like for you when you have
Well, and I would advise anyone who's doing a photography or
oh,
any kind of business, man. We get there, my partner and I, when we shoot it, we get there, and let's just use Lucas for an example.
right?
We'll get there 2 hours before the event, and the Colts are one of the better ones in the NFL. They feed us, give us a place to hook up our internet, all free, and we get to get all the information we need, and then we go out in the field. That's where we see you at. We're generally out on the field, man, hour and a half before the game, man.
Right.
Getting information. We'll have a list of teams, players that we need to capture, and sometimes those guys don't play, but you can catch them in warmups and things of that nature. But we have a list, offensive and defensive players that we need to capture for a story we need to turn in for our print and web page. But that's where I met you, man. You were taking care of the media people on the sidelines. But the bottom line is, being an on-field photographer, we get to stay the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and see, you're a lot braver than me. I mean, do you ever get hurt, or does it get too close to a call on the sideline, man? That would be something I'd be worried about.
Well, thank God I've never been trucked, man. Especially, you don't want to be trucked by one of those NFL guys, because for a fact, TV is one thing, but up close and personal,
yeah,
everybody's big. Everybody's big, man. Yeah. But you know what? I've never been trucked, thank God, in basketball or football. But I can't remember the quarterback that was throwing the ball, but it skipped and hit the turf first. Then it hit me in the leg. Man, I don't know how they catch those balls, man. Those things are like brown, little brown oblong concrete balls, man. Yeah.
Well, and I guess it just comes with practice. But when you're looking through the viewfinder, is there a particular spot or something that you're looking for?
Well, no. First and foremost, if you're in photography, especially, you have to know the sport you're shooting. So you anticipate this guy's going to hand it off. He's going to turn this way. In the holes, if you're looking for, especially if you're looking for linemen and things of that nature, because they're always in scrums. So you got to kind of anticipate, but when they snap off the line, you snap with them and try to get them grabbing or doing the swim moves or things of that nature. But quarterbacks, exactly. You always want to get your quarterbacks. Those are the top of the list, no matter who's in town. And they're going to, if they're right-handed, they're going to turn a certain way. Hopefully you get them for coach purposes. Coach, one of the guys just sacking a quarterback, which makes a great shot,
Oh,
but
yeah.
You're telling a story from beginning to end. You want that story to be memorable, so someone wants to read or look at your images. So, and I try not to take pictures, man. I want to take images that invoke some kind of emotion, man, good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, and part of your job, one of the difficult things would be like you're capturing people in their worst moments. Like I can remember when a high school team loses, sometimes the kid is crying and he's got his head in his jersey.
Right.
I mean, is it sometimes hard to keep your cool, or is it just a matter of doing your job at that point?
Well, it's not a job; it's a career.
Right.
So, but the bottom line is, you have to tell the story, man. You have to be.
Right.
Of course, I'm pulling for home teams when I'm doing the pros, and I want our guys and women to do the best. But the bottom line is, you have to be like Switzerland, and you have to be neutral. And try to capture some of that stuff. And thank God we have long lenses, because we're shooting things that players don't even know we're capturing.
Right.
Yeah. You want the old the old adage with Wide World of Sports, man. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Totally. And I like the image of you with the rings behind you. Esque of Michael Jordan. I have to say, as like a sports photographer in the career that you're in, man, like you get to capture history and like some iconic
Absolutely.
things that get to stay in time. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool when it comes to your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. Absolutely. That picture of Michael Jordan was Eric Gordon at North Central. They played Loyola of Chicago with Michael Jordan's. Both his sons played there,
Right.
and they came down for ESPN game. And of course, Eric, I think, dropped almost 50 on him. They destroyed Lala there, man. But when he came in, it was my dear friend Paul Logan, may rest in peace. He was athletic director over there, assistant athletic director, and there was an ESPN game, and it was JBK. They were scalping tickets, man, out front,
Right.
to try to get into that game, and it was packed. And I said, Paul, I said, man, if the fire marshal came in here, man, that shut this down. He said, wait a minute, the fire marshal is on the other side of the room watching the game too. So we were good, but the doorways were packed, man. It's just stuffed with fans. And then the next thing you knew, it was like the spreading of the Red Sea. Here comes Quinn Buckner and Michael Jordan. They came in, and they had a seat for him, and I just captured one of the shots, man. And I think it was maybe halftime, but he was watching the game real intensely right before halftime, and I just took that shot, man, and it was a great shot, man. I put it on my wall. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've only experienced like fire marshal full one time. It was when Gary Harris played North Central, and they had Ronnie Johnson, Darius Latham, really talented team going up against Zach Urban as a junior and Gary as a senior. And he hit that half court shot, which ended up being on ESPN the next day.
ESPN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
And plus with Eric Gordon, my dad was good buddies with Doug Mitchell. I ended up winning the scholarship for his son, the Memorial
Okay.
Golf Tournament with him. So I I know Doug, and plenty of wins are attributed to Eric, man. What was he
Oh,
like?
absolutely.
What was he like as a
Absolutely.
player when he was in high school?
Oh man, I'm telling you, around other states, JBK, like in Ohio, I
Yeah.
used to shoot a gentleman. You probably know him, OJ Mayo. Remember when he was coming up
Yeah, man. Yeah,
in
sure.
in Ohio in the 8th grade? You could play high school basketball, and
Oh,
so he was playing. I think his may have been his freshman and sophomore years or junior senior years. He was Mr. Basketball, and same way here with Eric. Eric could have been Mr. Basketball. He was his senior year, but a couple of those other years, he could have been Mr. Basketball as well. He was a man amongst boys as a freshman because he came in with a college body
right.
and with the tenacity that he would shoot. Eric would cut your throat and then walk in your blood, man, and then shake your hand after the game. He was tenacious. And he was incredible. But he played with all stars, and in front of him, I think AJ Ratliff, he was Mr. Basketball and things that and went to IU. But Eric played with those guys as freshmen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I can remember when Greg Oden was sort of a myth around the state, and he was on national TV.
right.
But you mentioned it, man. Like, what's more important in that combo? Is it Greg Oden or is it Mike Conley, the guy who's
Mike
delivering everything?
Conley,
Yeah,
Mike Conley, without hesitation, Mike Conley. Greg was a dominant force, but he had to get the rock. He couldn't get it himself.
yeah,
But Mike knew him and everybody on that team. I call Mike the quiet assassin. He wouldn't say a word, but you look up, he'll have 35 and 12, and
yeah,
you would never know it. But I shot them their whole career here. When I started shooting, I only got to shoot them the last 3 years. That's when I was into photography, and they were. And a gentleman named Grant Nesbitt, he was athletic director, gave me carte blanche for those 3 years. I mean, I shot them when they were undefeated. Shot them when they won. The only game I've ever seen them lose was when Mike Conley he broke his hand,
right.
and they lost to Arlington. They redeemed that loss in sectionals, but without Conley, it's not taking anything from Greg because Greg was a dominant force, but he was just so much bigger, stronger, and faster than the other guys. But Mike would always run his show and
Yeah,
kept everybody on point. I got to shoot it was a game between Lawrence North. And you remember the team out of Chicago, they had to get a special dispensation to go to Chicago. John Shire's team. He's a coach of Duke now, but high school he was he was running things up in the Chi. But we went there, played at Northwestern University, and they set an attendance record. They sold a college arena out, man. Then Mike and Greg in the Lawrence North Wildcats proceeded to beat the brakes off of them. I think Mike wound up with 30 and 15, and I think Greg had like 35.
Man, talk about a dynamic duo, 18
Absolutely.
years old.
Absolutely.
And see, I had the joy of covering, a total collective team in Carmel that went on to play RJ Hunter and those guys at Pike.
Yeah. Marcus Teague was on that team too. And RJ and all those guys. And they were special.
You said too that, you've kind of covered these guys from the time that they were kids until now. A cool thing about your career and what you do, you get to see people grow up. I got the Colts job when I was 20 and now I'm 27. You've seen me kind of change and grow over time too. I know from experience.
Absolutely. Some of the guys like the Teague brothers, Gary Harris, Yogi, right. Trevon Blewett, those guys. I was shooting them when they were in middle school. Yeah. Right. And now, now they're in the league, man, and doing well. But I followed them the whole time, and I'm still friends with them, man. That's the great part about it. The main difference for me between pro and high school is one is access, because the pros, you've been there. They're in certain places at certain times, then they're gone. But at high school, it's a lot different. Even with Big Joey, I could go in the locker room with those guys, man. Yeah, and him and Paul, all those guys, man, and my buddy Pete Hubert out at which is a great place, the venue to shoot basketball, man, out of Southport. Because I shot many sellout games out there, man, when they were hosting regionals.
Absolutely, man. I will say too that a cool thing about your job is that you get to capture the best images for a family. I know from my family, some of the best pictures of Joey are ones that you took. Do you take pride in that, knowing that some of the best pictures for a family are ones that you captured for them? That's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely, man, because it's memories, man. It's I have a segment on my Instagram called Freeze Frame, because you're freezing that moment in time, man, that you can never go back, but you can freeze it and you can see it and you can print it, which is amazing, man. At that time you can never get back.
Could you have imagined something like Instagram when you were coming up? Like just the technology of it? I really can't believe how easy it is to share content. It's almost not fair the way.
Right. But it's amazing. It's amazing when you can do that, man, and share that stuff with people, man. Yeah, for a lifetime, just like you and your family.
One last question for you. What was the best professional advice that you received? Because a lot of this career is based on relationships, and I know you and Walt take that seriously, and it means a lot to be in your circle, man. It does.
Right. The best advice I got from my mentors, man, is right when they met me, they said, conduct yourself as a professional photographer. And that doesn't mean just having the right equipment. That means being on time, which means being early. Respectful for what you're doing, because everybody doesn't get this opportunity, man, to do this, especially at the level that I've been blessed to do it with, man. And the biggest thing is, they said there's a major difference between a photographer and a camera owner. And he said you have to consider yourself and do the things that makes you a professional photographer and not a camera owner, because now DSLRs and cameras are so readily available, but you have to know what you're doing other than just using the equipment, cultivating relationships like you and I have, and meeting people and treating them with respect, because they can't do what we're doing right now. They can't. But the bottom line is we want to make sure that we're a team when we're doing things.
Let me say, too, you always made me look good on the field, and I appreciate you taking some time to be on the show, David. It means a lot, man. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure, JBK, man. We boys for life.
Folks, to check this out again, you can check out my website, jbkonair.com, or get the podcast anywhere by searching JBK on air. Until next time, have a great day and a better tomorrow.